Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it is time. We are live. The date today is Sunday, January the 6th, 2019. And the exact time is 9:04 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're starting 2 hours later than we normally do. But this is Two Dudes and Some Bullshit, our first show back in 2019. Tony, how the hell are you?
I'm great, man. Happy New Year. Happy belated Merry Christmas and all that fun jazz.
Yes, Happy New Year to you as well. Did you have a good Christmas? Did you have a good New Year's? Were you rocking the mistletoe? Or
Not really rocking the mistletoe much this year, but definitely it was nice. Low key, good times with family. Spent some time with my brother, my mom, my aunt and uncle. So it was nice. And then New Year's was definitely chill. Nice chill. Although we also had really bad weather. We've been under Georgia's been under a lot of rain over the last week, and this was the first weekend, Saturday and Sunday, back-to-back days where we had sunshine since October. That's how much rain we've had here. Like, it's been nuts. So
wow.
like the whole weekend around Georgia was just everybody was out driving and just capitalizing on 60, 70 degree weather that we're having down here. But all in all, it was a solid New Year's, and it was a good, can't believe it's already 2019. Can't believe we're going to be 40 in 5 months.
Yeah. It is. It's hard to believe.
It doesn't seem right. You know what I mean? Turning 40 in 5 months.
I was just going to say, this is the beginning of the end. I mean, really.
It really is.
This is the kind of thing where it's like over the next 10 years, I mean, by the time we're 50, it's like, wow, we're 50. We're entering that old man status.
Right. We're entering our parents' age and like grandparents' age, and it's just like, oh man, this isn't right. It's like time goes by, man. That's what I tell to like a lot of these young kids who are in their 20s. Like, yo, you don't understand. Like when they tell us that at that age, I remember my parents telling us that. Like, you don't understand time. Oh, I understand now. It goes by fast.
That's right. Hey, Luke Glanton in the chat room says, yeah, 40 is young as fuck. Well, as the great Indiana Jones said in Raiders of the Lost Ark, it's not the years, Luke, it's the mileage.
I think it's the mentality. I think it's like, what you do as far as like how you live your life, and I mean, I'm very active. I exercise a lot, so I'm planning to be like the Ringo Starr when I'm 80 years old and looking like I'm 40. You ever see that dude now? He still looks like he's 40.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. Like, no, and to Luke's point, by the way, he's absolutely right. I mean, I'm not suggesting that 40 is old. Of course it's not old. It's all a matter of perspective
it's
of course.
An eye-opening number, I think.
It is. When you get to this age, you realize, wow, it's 40. You're not 20, you're not 25, right. You're not even 30, you're 40. And in 10 years, I mean, I remember my 30th birthday party like it was yesterday.
Right.
It was a surprise birthday party. And obviously it was May 24th, 2009. And I had a lot of friends that gave me a 30th birthday party. And that's hard to believe that was 10 years ago because I remember it vividly very well. So of course it's not old, but when you get to 40, you realize, wow, another 10 years, I'll be 50, depending on how long you live. We always say that, midlife is, between 40 and 50. Well, it all depends on how long you live, right? My mother died at 67. My father died at 69. So if I'm hoping, my fingers are crossed, I work out and run and eat healthy too. But, if I'm not fortunate enough to make it into my 80s, I've already passed my midlife already. So, you have to kind of keep things in perspective, which is why it's so important to live each day as it comes. But yes, of course, 40 is not old. We're being a little facetious, but it's still, like Tony said, that eye-opening age where you're like, wow, 40. I mean, we're not kids anymore,
Well, and it's what you just said a moment ago. It's when we turn 30, we're projecting to 40.
Right.
When you turn 40, now you're projecting to 50.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a whole different
ball game.
Like, whoa, wait a second here. How did this
ball game
happen?
It's a whole different. Well, look, I mean, think of all the professions that if you're 50 you're considered old. Whether it's a firefighter, whether it's a doctor, whether it's a police officer, whether I mean, look, NHL players. I would be considered ancient if I was a hockey player or a baseball player or a football player, right? So obviously, it's all a matter of perspective. But it's kind of crazy to think.
Well, and I do think it's all about how you choose to live your life. I met a guy here not too long ago who he didn't summit. He got as high up as Camp 4, but he climbed K2, which is the hardest mountain in the world. If anyone knows anything about the mountains, Everest is the biggest. K2 is like they call it
second biggest or something.
Second biggest, but it's also the most difficult mountain to climb.
Right.
Because of weather conditions, they couldn't summit. And I'm meeting him. He's 45 years old, and he's telling me this story and showing me these photographs of climbing the mountain and like beautiful sceneries and stuff. And I'm like, fuck. And I'm sitting here making YouTube videos about movies. I need to get my shit together.
I know what you're saying.
And I'm talking about fucking Halloween. What the fuck?
That's right. I get you. Well, folks, we appreciate everybody tuning in. 77 people watching right now. This is episode 7 of Two Dudes and Some Bullshit, our first show of 2019. And Tony and I today are going to be talking about our most anticipated movies of the coming year, 2019. But before we get to that, we're going to talk about some of our favorite movies. I think we've compiled a list of about 5 or so of some of our favorite movies from 2018. Now, I probably can speak for Tony when I say this, but he can speak on his own afterwards. So I will just speak for me when I say that my list, our lists, of course, but my list may be very different from yours, okay? Because what I am compiling here is a list of movies, a list based on movies that I have actually seen, okay? So, I haven't seen Avengers Infinity War. That's not to say that I don't think I wouldn't enjoy it, but as many of you who have been following me for a long time know that I'm not a big superhero kind of guy. That doesn't mean that I won't catch it on Netflix or I won't think it's really good or whatever it is, but I just didn't go to the theater to see it just because I just never got around to it. It wasn't number 1 on my list. So it's not going to be included on my list, not because it couldn't be on the list, but because I didn't see it. So I'm not going to toe the party line just because other people have it. I haven't seen it. So I can't speak to it. I don't know. So my list are movies that are based on things based on films that I've actually seen. So
Same here. That's exactly the way I did it. I didn't do it based on like the hype of movies and popularity of movies last year, even though I did see Avengers and it is on my list. But yeah, I did the exact same thing. I based it all, and you actually are going to be surprised because there's a movie on here from the early 70s that I never saw. I saw it for the first time last year. So I did put that on my list because I didn't know if we were counting it as just 2018 films or just new movies in general that we're seeing for the first time. And I based it on that. Films that I watched in the year 2018, seeing it for the first time.
Right. No, I understand. Very cool. Okay.
You ready?
So, yes, I'm ready. Who wants to go first? Maybe we should let the chat room decide today. Chat room, who should go first? Do you want to hear? First of all, we're going to talk about our favorite films, some of our favorite films from 2018. Who do you want to go first? Tony or me? Me or Tony? Tony or I or Tony? Chat room.
Odds are even. 1, 2, 3, shoot.
Oh, we got Dave. Dave. What? Why? Because it's my channel?
Yeah.
All right. And in that case, we'll get Tony to go for it. No, okay. All right. The chat room has spoken. Cody. Want Cody Leach to go for it? Hey, you know what? We got to get Cody Leach on the show.
We do. Definitely need to get.
All right. Well, these are my top 5 favorite movies of 2018, movies that I've seen. Now, remember, 5 is a small number in the big picture of movies that, you actually see. But I had to whittle it down to the 5 movies that I think are my favorites of the year. That doesn't mean that a movie you might be surprised that wasn't on the list wouldn't have fallen in 6 or 7. I mean, if I did a top 10, maybe that movie would be there, right? But this is 5. It's a very small list. And I put this in order. The movies that I'm looking forward to this coming year, I didn't put in order, but these are in order for me. So number 5 would be The Incredibles 2.
Did you like that? I haven't seen that.
I love The Incredibles 2. I love
the first one.
Yeah, the first Incredibles was awesome. And I actually watched the first Incredibles, not in the movie theater, but I actually got a bootlegged copy of it back in 2004. I forget how I got this copy. A buddy of mine had it or whatever, and he loaned it to me. It wasn't great quality, but I popped it in. It was good enough that you could watch it. And I loved it. I thought it was great. So when it came out, I actually did buy the copy, so I didn't feel as bad, you know. But I loved the Incredibles too. There was uh, there was a high probability, like, you know, whenever you make sequels to animated films, especially, you know, it's like The Incredibles is, you could perceive it as a modern day animated classic.
Sure.
So, you know, it's kind of like, but it was really good. Some people didn't like it quite as much as the first one. I could see why, but it's pretty damn good. Like,
Yeah,
I think
sequels are very tough. Not many of them have that Toy Story where, you know, the Toy Story sequels have been just as good as the original.
yes,
And it's very, very few. Like even like Lion King sequels, you know, they tanked.
oh yeah, well, they were also straight to VHS too, I think.
Right. So yeah, no, so that's good. I was like, I don't know if I want to watch it because the first one was so good. Now that you told me, I'm going to watch that.
Yeah, the second one's good. And the second one, like Halloween 2, 1981 to Halloween, picks up exactly where the first one left off. So that should be all the reason to watch it right there, folks. Okay, here we go. Number 4. Number 4, we're counting down to 1. So 5 was The Incredibles 2. Number 4 is Searching. I actually really enjoyed this movie. That stars what's-his-face from the Harold and Kumar films. God, I fucking forget his name now. I almost forget.
I forgot his name too.
Forget his name. The chat room will let us know. Anyway, really good movie. I actually quite enjoyed the trailers because I'm somebody that really likes watching those Dateline mysteries, those 48-hour mysteries, you know, 2020, like real life drama, real life crime. And you know, I really get into them. I really quite find myself really enjoying it. So Searching is like watching that kind of a thing for 2 hours, and it's all John Cho. Thank you, guys. It's all done from the perspective of like kind of like how Unfriended was, but it was like through the computer, through Skype, through things like it's all shot that way. At first, I didn't think the entire movie was going to be done like that, but they switch between like the computer to security cameras to never at any point is it actually as is in person. And whenever you do films like that, it's like, you know, because it's an aesthetic thing and it's not, it doesn't appeal to everybody, right? It's like found footage shit. That novelty wore off long ago, even though I think a found footage film, when done right, when done correctly, can be something really special. You know, this kind of thing where you're watching a movie play out through social media and through computers and webcams and all that kind of shit can be pretty tricky. Searching was a pleasant surprise. Cool. And I actually really enjoyed it. But again, I also like watching those real life 2020 Dateline mysteries, which is kind of like what this is. So if you really like watching that kind of stuff, you're already sort of like, oh, this is cool. Like this is like a feature film like this. You know what I mean? So great mystery with a couple of twists, and it was really well done. So I really liked it. One of my favorite movies I saw this year. Pleasant surprise. Number 3, I have Hereditary. Number 3 is Hereditary. Hereditary was fantastic. Now, Hereditary is the kind of film that it is an acquired taste. It's very cerebral, okay? It's not something that you can watch, and if you don't understand the deeper meaning of symbolism in terms of what they're trying to portray, it's the kind of movie that you may have to watch a couple of times to see things that you didn't see before. And I'm not just talking about shit in the background. I'm talking about understanding, you know, the rituals, understanding the practices. You know, maybe you should look it up on your own and get a basic idea and then watch the movie again and then be like, okay, I get. It's definitely got a real cerebral sort of angle to it, mixed in with a lot of mood and atmosphere and, you know, the cinematography and it's got a style. And A27 is knocking the shit out of the park. Yeah, I guess you'd say that. Knocking the shit out of the park here, right? And it's great. I really enjoyed it. But it is an acquired taste. Some people are going to watch that movie and they're going to be like, I fucking found this really boring, and I can understand why. And I'm not saying that you're stupid if you don't understand it or you're dumb if you don't like it. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that sometimes these kinds of movies, if you're going in to watch a movie to have everything sort of laid out for you in a very conspicuous sort of way with very little room for, you know, anything to be ambiguous or inconspicuous, Hereditary is probably not your movie. You're going to have to do a little thinking on your part as the audience. And I really enjoyed it. That doesn't mean that I got everything the first time I watched it, but it's my kind of slow burn. It's my kind of mood and atmosphere, and I love that kind of stuff. It's an art form that is very far and few between nowadays, and in some ways maybe that's good, because if everybody was doing it, then the novelty would wear off, or blah blah blah. But anyway, Hereditary, I could go on and on. Tony and I have often talked about doing an entire show on that, so maybe we will. But number 3 is Hereditary. Number 2 for me is Annihilation with Natalie Portman. I really liked Annihilation. Now, Annihilation is directed, I believe, by the same guy that did Ex Machina.
Yeah, it is.
And I really liked Ex Machina. Well, he follows it up with Annihilation, which I don't know if I like Annihilation as much as I like Ex Machina. They're two
Ex
different
Machina is
films.
really good. I haven't seen Annihilation yet.
Annihilation is, again, another cerebral type of movie with a lot of symbolism, not quite maybe as ambiguous as Hereditary, but certainly the ending is really cerebral. I mean, there's a lot of ways you could interpret it, of what it could mean. Obviously, the filmmakers have to have, at least you should, as a writer and as a filmmaker, you have to have a definitive answer of what you're laying out, even though you may leave it ambiguous for the audience. You, as the storyteller, if asked, like if I was to ask Kubrick, what does the ending of 2001 really mean? He would be able to tell me like that, no problem, because that's his job as the filmmaker, even though he's left it open to be ambiguous for the average, open for interpretation. So very much Annihilation is left kind of like that. I can certainly understand it being a movie that maybe you're like, well, what? I don't like, is it? But I love that when it's done well, when it's done right, it can be smooth and
very, smooth, very effective.
Sorry?
Very smooth and very effective. Very much like Inception is another great example.
Yes, absolutely.
Open to interpretation. I love those types of movies.
Yeah, so I think you will enjoy Annihilation. I think you will. And watching Natalie Portman for a couple of hours is not too bad either.
Yeah.
So okay, and that brings me to my number 1 movie of the year for me.
Halloween?
No, it's not. No, it's not Halloween 2018. Sorry to disappoint people in the.
Halloween didn't even make my list either.
No.
Sorry.
That's not me saying that Halloween was a bad movie. I'm not saying that. I'm talking about.
Dude, they're coming after you, bro.
Oh, they will. They will. No, this is. When I went to see this movie in the theater, people probably won't get it at all. When I went to see this movie in the theater, I had so much fun going to a movie, depending on the movie, of course. Not every movie is supposed to leave you feeling, wow, when you leave the theater. That's not their job. But when you can go watch a movie where you leave the theater going, you know what? That was fucking fun. And obviously it's a movie that lends itself to watching it on a big screen in IMAX and that kind of stuff, as a lot of movies nowadays do, of course. But my number 1 movie of the year that I saw, this might change if I saw all the movies that you did, but was Ready Player One. And I had such a great time watching this movie. The trailers, as Tony and I have discussed on this channel many times, the blockbuster movie is something that a lot of people who are younger in the chat room, you guys have to understand. There is a blockbuster coming out every weekend now, sometimes a couple of them in a weekend. It wasn't like that 25, 30 years ago. You may
like that in the mid-90s.
No, well, that's what I mean. You may get maybe
mid-90s. Fuck.
Yes, you may get a blockbuster, maybe 5 or 6 of them through a summer. And there was a time where you would get 1 or 2 in a summer. Yep. Now we're getting so many of them. So as somebody who's 40 for all intents and purposes, and as somebody who grew up with a healthy dose of Spielberg, and Spielberg, of course, over the last 10 or 15 years or so has been really heavy into the biopics and the dramas and things like that. To go to a theater and watch the man who started it all in terms of the blockbuster, who has that, who's never lost those sensibilities in terms of adventure and being a child. I mean, for fuck's sakes, Stranger Things is like one big dedication to the man. So when
did you read the book Ready Player One?
I haven't. No, I have not read.
Oh, good. It's really good. Oh my God, yeah. I mean, I'm always the type that I'm a purist in the sense of like I always prefer the novel over the movies because They
Right.
just never can live up to what they do in the novel, obviously. That
Of course. Yeah, of course.
Shorthanded. But what Spielberg did in the movie was fucking amazing.
It felt like Leah, my girlfriend, she's not a big movie person like I am. But when we walked out of the theater, she turned to me, she's like, that was fun. Like that was it. I sat there as a 39-year-old man watching this movie on the screen. And Leah, who's only a couple years younger than me, I mean, we're sitting there, we're like, we feel like we're kids in the 80s watching a movie on VHS that we can't get, enough of. I mean, this is what it feels like. It was so much fun. And The Shining, I won't spoil anything, but The Shining reference was absolutely incredible. It was so well done. My God.
Yes.
It was a movie that I walked out of and I thought that it reminded me that he's still got it. I mean, he proved once again in a sea of Ready Player One come out 30 years ago, it would have been a bona fide classic. Now, obviously with 80s technology and things like that, okay, but if this movie had come out 30 years ago, today we'd be looking at it like we do Back to the Future or like we do, E.T. or something to that effect. I mean, it had that sensibility about it. The only reason why it gets lost in the sea of everything else that came out, because I think like a week later or 2 weeks after that, Avengers came out and then Solo came out and then it just doesn't, there's so many other things around it that you have this gem that's like, what would have been a gem 30 years ago. It's like, Spielberg proved once again, even in the sea of mayhem of all these other big films, everybody else is doing it now. He proved once again why he was the best at it. I mean, even today at 70 years old, he can dish out a movie like that. It's like, wow. So that's why for me, Ready Player One is my number one movie of the year out of the movies that I've seen, of course.
Sure.
So take it away, Tony, my man.
All right. I got a couple more than you, but I'm going to just rattle them off here really quickly here so we can get to our anticipated films for 2019. The first one was obviously for me was Avengers Infinity Wars. To me, I think this is the culmination of 10 years of what we started off with RDJ at Iron Man, and now we're coming up to Endgame this year. And like most of us who are fans of the MCU, very much anticipating, looking forward to this. I know you're not a comic book movie person, but I do think you would like the MCU a lot. And the way Kevin Feige has structured all of it together. I got to tell you, still to this day, that moment there, everybody who's seen Infinity Wars knows exactly what I'm talking about when he says, "I'm sorry" to Tony Stark. Man, it's like a gut punch, and all of a sudden you're like, no, I'm not going to cry. No, I'm not going to cry. I'm like, fuck, I'm going to cry. It's probably one of the most gut-punching moments I had in the theater all year this year. It was such a good film. Looking forward to, obviously, Endgame. Can't wait for that to come out here in a couple months. Next for me was Mission Impossible Fallout. Here's the thing with the Mission Impossible franchise. Love the first film. Second film was like, eh. The third film was like, okay, I was like, okay, be done, Tom Cruise. You're no more. Then the dude comes back with, I think, Ghost Protocol, right? And then
yes, in 2011.
Right. So he comes back with Ghost Protocol. I'm like, fuck, dude still got it. And it's a good film. And then the next one, Rogue Nation, and now this was like, holy crap. This one, I think, of the last three films, Fallout, I thought was the best of all of them. I liked Henry Cavill as the, I don't want to give it away, but you just watch the film. It's a good movie. He did a great job in it. So, yeah, I will definitely say Mission Impossible Fallout was second as far as action movies that I enjoyed in 2018. Next, same as you, Hereditary. I don't want to be redundant and repeat the same thing you said because we've talked about this. And I think we should do a dedicated video to it one day because there's a lot of elements to that film that we talk about in previous videos where, I talk about the trinity of three films to watch if you want to make a movie, The Exorcist, The Shining, and Clockwork Orange. I feel like all those elements of those three films were put into Hereditary, that you can see an element of each of those styles of filmmaking in that film. And that's what I really enjoyed and loved about it. Like, remember when you and I talked about Hereditary? I didn't like it the first time. I was like,
yeah.
But then I watched it and I'm like, I fucking like this movie. It was just kind of one of those films, like, you do have to watch it a couple times. And then when you do watch it a couple times, you're like, okay, this movie's actually really freaking good.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. No, I remember that. I remember the first time you watched it, you said to me, I'm not sure, man. I gotta watch it again. And you did, and you're like, okay, I'm starting to see it. Yeah, no, I get it.
Exactly. After that, A Quiet Place. I really love this film. I thought the creativity of using ambient sound, which in 2018, that's a high risk, high gamble. To not have next to no dialogue. And I thought, did you see A Quiet Place?
No, I haven't seen it yet, but it's on Netflix now, so I'm gonna check it out.
Watch it. I'm not going to say anything more. I think you're going to really enjoy it. It's like Hereditary and A Quiet Place are like my two favorite horror thriller type movies that came out in 2018.
Right.
Both are original. Both are very creative. I can't really give one over the other, but I would say for the creativity side of it, I got to give the nudge to A Quiet Place just simply because of how they structured the movie together, which I thought was really very, very smart and creative. After that, mid-90s, you don't even have to be a skateboarder to appreciate this. If you were a teenager in the mid-90s, which is a film directed by Jonah Hill, it's available on iTunes right now. Watch this movie. It is so good. Even if you're not into skateboarding, it's the whole story of growing up as a teenager, coming into your own as a young teenager in the 90s. Jonah Hill knocked this out of the park. And I think, Dave, even for someone like you who's not a skater, you're going to be able to identify with it because you're like, yeah, this was my generation. I remember growing meeting your friends and, these are the friends now you're going to hang out with through your teenage years and whatnot. I thought Jonah Hill did an excellent job of that storytelling, along with, the skateboarding as the kind of the undertone main theme to the movie.
Gotcha.
After that, this movie actually came out in 1973, and I just saw it for the first time between Christmas and New Year's. This kind of squeaked in here at the very tail end of the year, and it's a movie called Taking Pelham 123, starring Walter Matthau and Robert Shaw. And this is actually just before Robert Shaw did the movie Jaws. Now, there is a remake with John Travolta and Denzel Washington that came out, I don't know, 10 years or so ago. And I haven't seen that one, but someone had suggested to me to watch the 1973 version. And I did. And I was like, damn, this is a really, really dope film. Even though the movie didn't come out last year, I saw it for the first time last year, so I wanted to kind of throw that in there because I had never seen it before. So if no one's ever seen Taking a Pelham 123 with Robert Shaw and Walter Matthau, highly, highly recommend it. I love the grittiness of New York City too, where this movie takes place in. They did an excellent job of that in capturing the 70s and everything, which it was filmed in the 70s.
Yeah, yeah. You know what's funny? A little bit of a side note. My grandfather, who obviously has passed away, it was my mother's dad, a British man by the name of Lewis Hunt. He, in his maybe around our age, maybe a bit younger, looked a lot like Robert Shaw.
Really?
Oh yeah, I kid you not. I might even be able to bring up a photo here while you go on there. Oh yeah, he looked like Robert fucking Shaw. It was hilarious. Let me see here. Oh, I'm gonna bring this up pretty fucking quick. Let me see. Where the heck did that photo go? I was just looking at it the other day because I was showing my girlfriend that. Well, keep talking. Oh, here we go. Here it is. I'm gonna just this is so funny. Hang on a sec here, folks. Now picture Robert Shaw. If those of you who don't know who that is, I'll just say Jaws. He's Quint from Jaws. Okay, that should get people going. Ah, okay. Now again, I mean, I'm not saying identical, but you could totally see at least I think so. You can totally see the resemblance here. All right, here is my grandfather, Robert Shaw. Oh, wait a sec. That was a larger photo than I thought it was going to be. Okay, here we go. A little bit of a resemblance there, I think. Can you see that?
Dude, serious resemblance. Wow, man. That's your grandfather?
That's my mother's father. Yes, that's my grandfather. Robert Shaw.
Wow.
It's Quint. It's Quint from Jaws.
Totally Quint. You could definitely see it for sure.
Yeah, it's pretty cool stuff. Anyway, that was a bit of a side note. So on with the program.
Only got two more, and then we can get into the anticipated films. This one came out a week or two ago. Aquaman. Shockingly, surprisingly, Here's the thing. Maybe James Wan should have been doing the DC universe all along, because he does a film,
Maybe.
he comes in, does a film, and knocks it out of. Although Wonder Woman was a good movie, so I can't knock all the and I like Man of Steel. I just
Now, what is the character development and interaction like in Aquaman? I haven't seen Aquaman yet. Does it seem genuine? Does it seem?
I thought it was. I like Jason Momoa. I think he's awesome as Aquaman. You couldn't have
Right.
picked a better person. William Dafoe. Now I'm just like, dude, you're just like in every universe. So okay.
Right. Right.
But no, I thought everything. I mean, I don't know enough about like the Aquaman, origins and the stories. I just know that he lives in water and he lives on land and he controls
Right.
it. That's like my extent of it. I didn't really get into reading those comics and whatnot. But as far as a visual, what I saw on screen and what James Wan did with the movie, I thought it was a great film, and it's no wonder why the movie's doing so well at the box office right now.
Right.
I had a good time with it. I mean, it's not like, unfortunately what they did, the rush job with Batman versus Superman and Justice League, I think you had someone like James Wan in control of Batman versus Superman and also Justice League, I think those two films would have been better and probably properly placed, because what they, like what they did with Batman versus Superman, they rushed so many things. They rushed to the Doomsday story, which I thought was so stupid to do, focus, keep the focus on what this movie we're all supposed to go see here. Don't sidetrack us with another story out of left field. And I think that's, one of the many reasons why BBS did not do so well. But I'll say,
Sure.
and definitely redeems the DC universe. I had fun with it. Now you've got two solid, characters between Wonder Woman and Aquaman. So I still think that they can continue to go forward and build off of that. I don't think they need to sandbag it, even though I think Ben Affleck is done. He's not going to play Batman anymore, but I think whoever they replace will be fine. And if Henry Cavill still wants to do Superman, I'm totally cool with that as well, too. So Aquaman, I enjoyed it. Fun film. And the last movie for me, which was my personal favorite of the year, which is First Man. First Man, we were talking about this off camera. This is the Neil Armstrong story. I am a space guru. I love everything and anything. In fact, I spend probably more time on YouTube watching NASA videos and old documentaries on, the missions to, outer space, whether it was from Mercury through Gemini through Apollo, and just everything that these guys did and all these engineers creating the space program back then. I thought Ryan Gosling, did a fantastic job portraying Neil Armstrong and just, watching what he could have gone through. Because you have to remember, too, Neil Armstrong was a very private person in real life. Like, there was
Yes, he was.
nothing about this man. So like to see all this, to see this side of Neil Armstrong that we never got to see before, and how, all this stuff that he was doing during the Gemini program and then going eventually into the Apollo program, how this was affecting his family and everything that was affecting his, with his relationship with his kids and his son, and how there's like, this is not a spoiler because it's in the trailer. There's this one moment where, he says he's going to the moon and his son is like, whatever. Okay. Like, it was really like that in his household. Like, his kids had gotten so accustomed to like, yeah, dad's going to the moon. It's like no big deal. And I'm just trying to think like, wow, like in your house, it's no big deal that your father is going to go land on the moon. But to like, the rest, like people like your father who were growing up, like this was like, holy shit balls,
Right. Right.
So I thought overall, I won't be shocked if I see this come up during the award season, whether it's Golden Globes or Oscar, that it might get a nod somewhere. I don't know if it'll get best acting performance. I thought Gosling did a great job portraying Neil Armstrong. But there were a lot more better performances last year. But I think as far as a movie goes, it might get in there, squeeze in there as a nomination for Best Picture. I don't think it'll win Best Picture.
Right.
But I get in there as a nomination for sure. Great, good film.
Right. Yeah. No, I haven't seen First Man yet. I will obviously at some point. But you're right with everything you say surrounding Neil Armstrong. So yeah, no, I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Ready to go into our anticipated films for 2019.
Yeah. Yes.
I have not seen Venom yet. So, someone asked in the chat room if I liked Venom. I have not seen it yet.
I haven't seen Venom yet either.
Eventually, very soon.
Yes, exactly. Yes. So let me see here. Just bring up my list here. This is be my most anticipated movies of 2019. And that doesn't mean that there's some that I could, these are just the ones that I'm looking forward to the most, but there could be some that I'm like, well, yeah, I could put that one on there and take that. It all depends on my, on my day. But when I made up the list earlier today, these were the ones that I, by and large are probably looking forward to the most out of any of them.
Sure.
But there's certainly some on here that, yeah, if you were to say, well, what about blah, 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 I'd be like, oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, of course. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like this is it. This is it. And everything else just drops right down to the bottom. Not at all. This is just the sort of the ones that I was feeling at the time.
Sure. You want to kind of go back and forth?
Yeah. Okay. All right. And this is in no particular order, by the way. This is in no particular order.
Yeah, same here. This isn't like from greatest to least or whatever. Yeah.
No. Okay, so number one on the list here, and again, this is no particular order, it's just in the number one spot. Godzilla 2, Godzilla King of the Monsters.
Yeah, I can cross that off.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to Godzilla King of the Monsters. It
looks really good. It really does.
I like the first trailer better than the second, but I will say this. I'm actually really interested to see how Millie Bobby Brown fits into this movie, and I would be lying if I didn't say that I wasn't a little skeptical.
Same with me.
Millie Bobby Brown, she's talented. There's no doubt she's talented. But
honestly, I think she's overhyped. But that's just
I
really do think I love her as the character 11 in Stranger Things. But I think this girl is going to have a rude awakening very soon, a very strong rude awakening. I think she got overhyped because of Stranger Things. Yeah. And I think we're about to see that. And I think she's going to have a hard dose of reality coming her way.
Yeah. And she strikes me as somebody who's a little, she's only 14 for God's sake.
And letting this shit get to her head?
Well, I think she is. She's just, I don't know who she's got in her corner, but anyway, I just hope that I'm curious. I don't want to watch the movie and think that I'm just looking at 11 dealing with dinosaurs. Anyway, so, but we'll see.
I think who's going to redeem it in this is Vera. Vera is she's a tremendous actress, from The Conjuring, her portrayal of Lorraine Warren. And then the television series there she did, the Bates Motel. She's just a phenomenal actress. So I think I'm actually a part of the reason why I'm looking forward to it is because of her, of her being in this movie.
Right. Yeah. And but at the end of the day, and I think people in the chat room would agree, at the end of the day, this is a goddamn monster movie. Yep. And you've got to deliver on listen, there's things about 2014's Godzilla that I like, but there's a lot of things I don't like. And there's a lot of things that Godzilla suffered that I think Rogue One also suffered. And what do they have in common? Gareth Edwards.
The payoff of Godzilla in the first Godzilla was horrible because
it was. And I wasn't emotionally attached to any of the characters. But anyway, that's a whole other thing. So yeah, Godzilla 2.
Cool. What about you? I'll that off my list because Godzilla was on there. So that's one of my films, but I'll give a new one. This one actually comes out in a week or so. This one crept up. I had no idea that they were even doing this film. I think it's an Apple movie, but it's called The Challenger Disaster, kind of segue from First Man into another space movie.
Oh, I haven't heard of it.
I didn't until like 3 days ago. I had no idea they were doing this film. The movie, it looks like it's kind of like a made-for-TV movie, which you don't hardly see any of those anymore, but it's going directly to iTunes. You can look it up online on YouTube. You can find the trailer. It stars Dean Cain, Superman Dean Cain. Yep. And it looks like it's kind of a combination of a documentary and a movie kind of blended together surrounding the events of Challenger Disaster, which is the anniversary is coming up here in a couple weeks on the 20th, I think it was the 28th when it happened, 28th or 26th, 28th, because they were supposed to go up on the 27th and they delayed it one more day to the 28th. Okay. So that comes out here in about a week or so. Very much as I said a few moments ago, I am a space nut guru. I love that shit. I literally watch Interstellar like once a month and I feel like 10 times smarter and I start walking out of the room quoting shit from Interstellar that I know nothing about at all.
That's funny.
Yeah, no, I'm looking, it looks cool. It's not, you can obviously see it doesn't have a big production, but because it's in a category of of an interest of mine, check it out. Check out the trailer. You might like it, and it's going to be directly to iTunes. So
Okay. All right. Well, we'll just get this one out of the way now. Now, even though this list is in no particular order, you could say that this is probably at the end of the day my most anticipated movie of the year, which of course is Star Wars Episode 9. And
that's not on my list. It's not. I've lost faith after The Last Jedi and Solo. I have lost it's not. Star Wars didn't even make my list, which is hard for me to say because I just said I love space shit. I'm not anticipating it. I have no faith.
The reason why Star Wars Episode 9 is on my list is because I am giving J.J. Abrams the benefit of the doubt. Now, I was somebody who really enjoyed The Force Awakens. I thought what JJ did, he had almost the impossible task of creating something that was old, but that was new, but that was familiar, but that was new, and that he was walking this fine line. I thought he did a great job. It felt like a Star Wars movie. It looked like a Star Wars movie for me. Sure. Some people may hate it. I thought it was great. The Last Jedi was an absolute abomination. It was just absolute. They shat all over everything. So I have never left a movie theater feeling the way I did after The Last Jedi, ever in my life. And I really didn't care about it going on. Now, at this time, though, we did not know that J.J. Abrams was coming back to direct Episode 9. At this time, we had no idea who it was, or did we? Maybe we did. Maybe we did. I stand to be corrected on that. But I remember when I was leaving the theater, I didn't give a fuck about it. I didn't, because I didn't see how they were going. This is such shit. And I could get into, trust me, I will be talking about it on this channel in videos. Tony and I will also be talking about it. So you'll get enough of that. But I have faith in J.J. Abrams that he is, I don't know how he's going to do it. I don't know how he's going to not retcon, but do a follow-up to such a shitty movie while still, he can't, J.J. Abrams can't, even though Rian Johnson he retconned a lot of what J.J. did. J.J. Abrams can't now retcon what Rian Johnson did. He can't do that. He might be able to weave a little bit and expand on some things, but he can't just suddenly say, oh no, actually Rey is Luke's dad. And he won't, and Snoke is not dead, and he won't be doing that. He's got to, the shit was made. He's got to follow it up. But I think J.J. is talented enough that I'm hoping, I have faith in him that he will deliver something.
Oh yeah,
really
don't get me wrong. I'm gonna go see the film. It's just I can't say it's my most anticipated film because the last two Star Wars movies have literally disappointed me. I liked Rogue One. There's some elements to the cinematography that I really liked. I thought the cinematography was beautifully shot. The color tones that they were using in that film, I thought were beautifully done. Of course, that badass Vader scene there at the end was great. Was it needed? No, I get the argument for that, but I'm with you. The Force Awakens was a great film. The Last Jedi and Solo, right now, it's so, I can't believe I'm even saying that I'm not anticipating looking forward to a Star Wars movie. Yeah. But given, what we've had here over the last couple of years with the last few films, I think many people are in the same boat that I'm in. It's like, I'm going to go see it, but I've got a lot of reservations, and I'm hoping JJ, brings it back home for us.
Yeah. And they're not, look, I mean, he's not a stupid guy. I mean, he knows, listen, I've said this before. I'll say it again. I'll continue to say it in the videos that we'll be doing, that I'll be doing and that we'll be doing this year, that listen, there's very little doubt in my mind about how I know about what I know about the film industry, how I know it works, what I know is said. There's very little doubt in my mind. Even producers I know, I'm not working on the film side of it, but even in the voiceover side of it, trust me, there's very little doubt in my mind that privately J.J. Abrams did not say to a buddy, what the fuck did he do? I don't know what the fuck happened. Privately over a beer on his back deck by a campfire when the wives have gone to bed or something.
How the fuck am I going to clean this
mess up? Doubt. There's no doubt in my mind. He said, I don't know what the fuck he just did. He's not allowed to say that. Okay. He's not allowed to say it, but there's very little doubt in my mind. He didn't turn to his wife in bed one night with their table lamps on and he's sitting there topless with a tea going, I don't know what the fuck happened. There's very little doubt in my mind that did not happen. But anyway, that aside, so I said episode 9. What's on the list for you?
Well, I said this at the beginning of the stream or earlier here. Avengers Endgame, which is the follow-up to Infinity War. And I'm going to kind of merge that with Captain Marvel because the two movies come out within like a few weeks of each other. Captain Marvel, I've been looking forward to this. Brie Larson, I love anything with Brie Larson in it. That's my second girl to Rachel McAdams. Loved her in Kong, loved her in Room, and very much looking forward to seeing her portray Captain Marvel, and then of course Avengers Endgame. So I'm kind of merging those two together because they come out, I think, about 3 weeks apart from one another, which is cool. So looking forward to that. Both those films.
Cool. All right. Next on the list for me is The Lion King.
That's on my list, so I can cross that off too. Yeah, we can both talk about that.
But listen, we obviously
we're gonna make so much money. I don't care what people tell me. I predicted it on your channel already once. I'm telling you, it's gonna make a ton
The Lion King. I agree with you. The Lion King could be this year's The Force Awakens. Now, I'm not saying that The Lion King necessarily will become the highest grossing movie domestically of all time. That's not what I'm saying.
I think it'll be the highest grossing opening weekend of all time.
It may very well be, but there's no doubt that The Lion King has several things going for it. It's one of the most beloved, if not, you could make the argument that it is the most beloved animated Disney movie of all time. You could make the argument. There's many.
It's my favorite cartoon film. Is it yours?
It's one of them. For sure.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it in a number of years, so I got to watch it again. But certainly, yes. I mean, it's up there. The soundtrack is great. Also, too, we have this quote unquote live action in terms of the presentation, very much like what Jon Favreau did with The Jungle Book. Of course, Jon Favreau is directing The Lion King. I don't want to call it, it's not live action, but it's not animated. I think we talked about this on a show a couple of weeks ago. I think what eventually will seep into the pop culture lexicon or the pop culture consciousness will eventually be something like it's hyper realism, or it's hyper realism live action, or something. There will be another word to describe what the presentation is of movies like The Jungle Book or The Lion King, because it's not live action. It's not, by pure definition, it's not. Right. So but it's not really. It's not really just your simple animation either. So hyper realism, something to that effect, will probably seep into the pop culture consciousness at some point. But yeah, there's no doubt that Lion King has many things going for it. One of the most beloved of all time, the hyper realism and the nostalgia. We were not little kids. I was 15. We were 15 when the movie came out. But of course, people our age have young kids now who are watching it, they're going to take it. It's got that, not quite to this degree, but for all intents and purposes, it's got that Star Wars-y effect going for it.
Oh, yeah. You got people like my mom and my aunt and uncle. They never go. My aunt and uncle said they haven't been to the movies in 10 years, and they're going to go see this film next year. You have people like that who never go to the movies, who hardly go to the movies. They're going to go and watch this film, and I think that's why this movie is going to make a ton of money, because it's going to draw in not just the average moviegoers who go to movies, like you and I do on a monthly basis, but it's also going to bring in the people who never go that are going to want to be a part of this experience.
Exactly. It's going to make a lot of money. And I agree with Tony. It could very well not only be the highest grossing opening weekend in motion picture history, but it could be at the end of the year, the highest grossing movie of the year. And I know some people go, no way, man, you got Episode 9, you got Avengers, they're going to be up there.
They're going to be up there, but no, I agree with you.
When the dust settles, it wouldn't surprise me if Lion King, if it's good, because it looks visually, aesthetically good, and like, wow, this is going to be kind of cool. But we'll see, right? But definitely it's on there. Okay, take it away.
Next on my list, I would have to say next to Lion King, this is probably, it's like neck and neck when I would say my most anticipated movies of this year is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
I got that on there too. Yeah.
Tarantino's film starring the boy, Leonardo DiCaprio. Kurt Russell's in this movie. Brad Pitt, Al
Yeah, Kurt Russell,
Pacino,
forgot about him.
Margot Robbie's in this film. Freaking, they even casted the dude from 90210. Luke Perry's in this movie. I mean, like, this thing is just like star-studded. For those who don't know, the premise of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, it takes place in the summer of '69, right around when the Manson murders happened and everything that was going on in Hollywood at that time. And what better director and writer to have than Quentin Tarantino behind this project, you know? So
yeah,
I would probably say is my most anticipated next to Lion King. When I heard this cast in this movie was being put together, love Tarantino. You know, right. I know I talk about Kubrick a lot as a director on this channel in the videos we do, but Tarantino is, you know, he is right there as far as a film creator and film, you know, maker goes. You know, he's right.
I've always had a love-hate relationship with Tarantino.
Yes. It's like, you know,
I find Tarantino, and it might be like, there's no doubt
I didn't like Hateful Eight.
Yeah, there's no doubt that he's very talented. I mean, that's not a question. But I think what irks me, and this is not really fair because this is not indicative, and I recognize this. This is not indicative of whether or not he makes good movies. I mean, it could be, I guess, if you have trouble, you know, getting along with him or something. But
sure.
But I just find him so strange. You know, and which could be his charm, but when I listen to him in interviews, I just find him strange and weird, and you know, and then some movies I watch, I'm like, it's like he's trying too hard, or he feels like he's got to be avant-garde because he's Tarantino, you know, or you know, something like that. And then sometimes I watch movies, I'm like, fuck, dude, he knocked it out of the park. So like, I have this love-hate relationship with him, but there's no question that he's talented. And there's no question that he can deliver good movies and tell really good stories. But I can't help, unlike Kubrick, who didn't have that weird, eccentric personality, I can't help but when I think of Tarantino, I think, oh, yeah, that guy. You know what I mean? And I recognize that that's not fair because that doesn't say anything about his talent necessarily. And sometimes the eccentricities of people are part of the why they're so, you know, intelligent and you know, and have that eye. So, you know, I recognize that, but it's just, there's something about his personality that I just find a little, you know?
No, I totally agree. I have that same relationship, you know, love-hate relationship. Like, I'm not a Kill Bill fan. I like Reservoir Dogs. I you know, I like Pulp Fiction, but
I like the first Kill Bill. The second one,
yeah, either one of the Kill Bill movies didn't really do it for me. Django Unchained, though, great film. Mainly because I am a big DiCaprio fan. DiCaprio is my all-time favorite actor.
See, what you just said, Leonardo DiCaprio, Kurt Russell, Margot Robbie, Brad Pitt, that alone, and people don't know this, so this will be a Dave McRae first here, but a few months back when I was in Los Angeles, the first time I was there, because I went in October for the Halloween convention and for some work, and then I went back, of course, a month later for the Voice Arts Awards. But when I was in Los Angeles the first time in October, myself and Leah, we actually went out to Spahn Ranch, where Spahn Ranch used to be. Now, for those of you that don't know what Spahn Ranch is, that was where Charles Manson used to live. That's where him and the Manson family used to live. Now, the ranch is no longer there. It burned to the ground years ago, and you would drive by. It's out in the middle of nowhere. You would never know it's there. It's not a tourist attraction or anything like that, but you certainly can look up the address of where it was, and you can go out there. And if you know what to look for, you can follow the trails and you can follow certain landmarks that if you look up your Manson history, you can see these in pictures and photographs and things like that. So it was very, I don't want to say cool because obviously that's, you know, it's this, right? Sure. But it was very moving. And we wanted to go out there because we wanted to just kind of have that experience of going, wow, like this is where it's where it happened, and sort of not not pay our respects, but sort of just kind of take a moment and reflect, because obviously it didn't affect we're Canadian, so obviously, but Charles Manson is in the pop culture lexicon. I mean,
Oh yeah.
it's a horrible story and a horrible thing that affects the industry and the film industry and the entertainment industry, of course. And there's so many things that you could dive really deep into the relationship between, Polanski and just all this stuff like going on. It's a big thing. But we actually went out there and we walked the trail. There was nobody out. It was a beautiful day. Some people that family that knew we were doing it said, did you feel anything when you're out there? Wasn't I? No, I mean, it was peaceful. It was very peaceful. But it was interesting but there was nobody, because it's not a tourist attraction. It's just an empty field with, you know what I mean? But we were able to find it. And, so now be warned though, people, that Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is not a Charles Manson story.
No,
it's a story that takes place against the backdrop of the summer of '69, and of course the summer of when that happened. So there's no doubt in that movie you will see that story unfold against whatever else is going on, but it's not the focus. It's not about the Manson murders. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah, no, and like you just said, the cast in here and whatnot. Someone asked in the chat room, why is DiCaprio my favorite actor? I have been following his career going back to This Boy's Life, when he started in This Boy's Life with Robert De Niro. And me and him are about the same age. He's about 2 years older than me. From there and then into What's Eating Gilbert Grape, Basketball Diaries. I mean, when you really watch his performance as a young actor, I know he did the Romeo and Juliet thing in Titanic and whatnot, and that sent him into a whole, another stratosphere. But I'm glad that after Titanic, he kind of brought it back down and kept, charging forward with the independent films, besides the movies that he worked with Scorsese on. And when you watch DiCaprio as an actor, he truly does, he's an actor. He gets into the performance of that character. I don't feel like I'm watching Leonardo DiCaprio up on the screen when I watch a movie, whether it's Aviator or Gangs of New York or Catch Me If You Can. I feel like
it's great.
I'm watching the person that he's portraying. And
that's right.
Say that about too many actors out there who can pull that off.
Now, for those, I stand to be corrected, but I think you weren't a fan of this movie, but maybe it was somebody else I was talking about. But nonetheless, for me, I really enjoyed it. Maybe it was you, maybe it wasn't. I apologize if it wasn't Tony. But one of my favorite DiCaprio movies is one that slips under the radar. I really loved it, primarily because I think the performances are fucking incredible. And that is a movie called Revolutionary Road.
Oh, that's actually where I'm from, Connecticut. It's based in
exactly.
Yeah.
If you guys want to see a powerful performance from Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet, by the way, watch Revolutionary Road.
It's a great film. It's a tough movie to get through because it's the tonality of the movie and the stories of what this couple was going through back in the 50s. Was it set in the 50s?
Something like that.
50s, 60s. Yeah. It's tremendous movie, and I hope to see Kate and Leo do another movie together.
Yeah, because that movie, I think that movie was about 10 or 11 years ago now. So they're due.
They're like the modern Bogey and Bacall. They really are.
There you go.
Great on-screen chemistry with one another.
Right.
So yeah, absolutely. So all right, what do you got next?
I got Joker.
Yeah, it's on my list too. All right, we can cross that off.
Perfect. Joker, yes. I am excited for this movie, and I know the chat room is probably thinking, yeah, but Dave, you're not a superhero guy. And it's like, yes, but the one thing that I wish DC would have done is, and I understand from a marketing perspective, from a business perspective, I get, even though I don't agree with it, I understand why the decision was made to rush a lot of these DC movies to try and compete with Marvel in terms of tone, in terms of aesthetic. But in my opinion, it was a big mistake.
What, casting Jared Leto as the Joker?
Sorry?
Casting Jared Leto as the Joker?
No, I just mean the whole tone of the DC universe and what they were doing.
Yeah.
Like, it was just a mistake. It was they were trying to compete with Marvel, and they should have, what Nolan did with the Batman trilogy, the Dark Knight trilogy, should have been the beginning of the DC universe.
Really should have been the beginning.
Yes, it should have been. And they should have kept that tone, because it's the contrast to Marvel. If you
And
want the happy and peppy and glitzy and polished and well, you got Marvel. If you want more of a grounded kind of, you got this other side, and it would
I
have.
will say Man of Steel, I think, carries that very similar tone to Dark Knight. Man of Steel is a much darker Superman than what we're used to. It's not the Christopher Reeve, underwear is over the tights, everything is hunky-dory.
Sure.
I'm going to save a cat out of the tree. Man of Steel, I thought, was going to keep that same undertone, but then, like you just said, what ended up happening was they ended up rushing projects like Suicide Squad, Batman versus Superman, and Justice League, which ended up being disasters.
With all due respect, it's Zack Snyder, and I don't have anything against him, as a filmmaker, but he has a very specific visual style, and I thought Man of Steel was okay. Visually, it was the best Superman movie we've ever had. But the character development was atrocious. I didn't give a fuck about Lois Lane, and I didn't give a shit about the relationship between Superman and Lois Lane, which is the heart of the Superman story. And if I don't care about their relationship, I don't care about Superman. And he looked like Superman. He was great as Superman. The action was great. The visual spectacle was great. But and Zod, by Shannon there, which incidentally he was also in Revolutionary Road. Michael Shannon, he was great, and yes, there was some great things, but the heart of Superman and Man of Steel was not there. And of course, Zack Snyder goes on to make Batman v Superman and carries over that type of aesthetic. And I actually watched Batman v Superman for the first time not long ago, about a year ago, and I actually didn't. I hate to say it. Now, it could be because I'm not emotionally attached to the superhero universe and world. I actually didn't mind it.
Well, the only thing I didn't like about it was the ending. Is that they got into the whole Doomsday thing, which is
right.
Which is a sidetrack.
Oh yeah, there were far too many characters.
Right. It's like, why are we going? Okay, and my only point to that is, like, with Man of Steel, we're one movie in with Henry Cavill as Superman. Now we're going to go into Batman versus Superman, which is cool, it's fine. But then when they introduce us to Doomsday, I'm like, okay, so we're already going to get to Death of Superman. We're not even 2 full movies in with Henry Cavill as the character of Superman.
I agree.
Something they should have waited 2 or 3 more movies down the road to give us the Doomsday movie.
Because they were rushing everything to compete with Marvel. Listen, it's 2019. We shouldn't have a Justice League movie yet.
No!
Justice League should be coming in like 2020, 2021 or so. We should have, there should already be a Superman 2. There should already be a Batman movie, maybe even a Batman 2. There should already be a Flash movie. There should already be a couple of Wonder Woman movie. And then you end it with but that's a whole other thing. Anyway, back to the Joker. Sorry, we could go on and on here. But back to the Joker. The reason why I'm excited for the Joker, I understand it's a standalone. I understand it's not connected to the DCEU, which I think is, how the fuck are they, like, what are they doing? I get that. But I'm really excited about Joaquin Phoenix being the Joker.
Yeah, because he looks like Cesar Ramon's Joker.
Well, and not only that,
Cesar
Romero, yeah. But not only that, it feels like, I don't know. We'll have to see a first trailer, but maybe even though this is a standalone, I have suspicion that what they're doing is they're building another universe, but they're taking their time. And they're building it one movie at a time. When Matt Reeves finally does his Batman movie, I don't think it's not in some way, shape, or form going to be connected to this Joker movie.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with that.
I think they're building something else. The shitty thing is that now you have Aquaman and Wonder Woman as 2 lame ducks that are sitting out here in this universe that's going to go nowhere.
Honestly, I think you could easily bring Aquaman and Wonder Woman into this universe, no problem, because Gal Gadot's performance as Wonder Woman is great. They've already got another Wonder Woman coming out like next year, I think. I think they got a sequel to that. And, like I said, with Momoa's performance as Aquaman, I don't think it would be that hard if they were to really sit there and say, you know what? We can totally shift this a little bit and, course correct it and bring these characters in.
I would agree with you if it wasn't for the fact that Aquaman and Wonder Woman are visually the complete opposite of what I think the Joker is going to be, and Batman, because Batman and the Joker, by and large, of course, they're not those visual spectacles. Whereas I think it might, to bring Aquaman into this universe, and all of a sudden, which visual style is going to meet the other? Are you going to bring the bombasticness and the visual spectacle of Aquaman and Wonder Woman down to the Joker and Batman and ground it? Or are you going to bring what you've established in the Joker and Batman and bring it up, and all of a sudden we have a sequel, and all of a sudden it's this bombastic, wild, crazy spectacle? That's why I have a feeling when they say that it's two separate shit, I believe that. I just feel, unfortunately, and I could be wrong, you could be absolutely right, Tony, but I have a feeling that it's kind of like, well, now you don't have Superman. Henry Cavill's pretty much out, and you got
checked
people,
out.
Yeah, and people are now saying that Affleck's out as Batman. So now you have, I mean, I know you still have the Flash, okay, but you have Aquaman and Wonder Woman who are doing really well, but nobody gives a fuck about anything. So now you have like these two, like what the hell?
Right.
Because regardless of how popular Marvel is or whatever it is, the two most iconic superheroes in the history of superheroes are Superman and Batman. Sorry, Marvel, DC's got them. That doesn't mean that the other things aren't iconic in their own right, but the two most iconic out of them all are Batman and Superman, and arguably Superman. He is the epitome and poster child of a superhero. So, I have a feeling that this Joker movie, they're going to see how it does. And Joaquin Phoenix is known as, he doesn't do sequels. He doesn't do sequels. Yeah, he may not. He may not. But I have a feeling they're going to see how this Joker movie does. And then Matt Reeves. And then once Joker comes out, because then you'll hear things about Batman. And Matt Reeves Batman.
I expect this Joker movie to be a lot like, I expect it to be like Heath Ledger's Joker, but on steroids and much darker. It's coming out in October.
It better be dark.
I think it's going to have that very dark feel to it. I think this is going to be like a no holds bar type of Joker where, he's going to be very sinister, menacing. I think we're going to see things on the big screen that we are not used to seeing, with the Joker, because they've always, you could say, some of the stuff that Heath Ledger did in there, but even what Heath Ledger did in the Dark Knight was still toned down. I mean, it was still dark. It was a much darker version than Jack Nicholson's Joker.
Sure.
Which, and I never get into the whole comparison, like who was better, Jack or Heath. I think they both are great performances and each, created their own character.
Anybody who says that nobody can play the Joker like Heath needs to be dragged out in the street and punched in the face. You may like Heath Ledger as the best, but to insinuate that nobody could ever, or he's the best one we've ever had. That's because before him, there were only two guys that did it, Romero and Nicholson. So don't try to say that there's this long list of guys that have played the Joker and he just happens to be the best. And then there's only been one after him. Right. So, I mean, there's only been four guys essentially that have played him anyway. That's so, and was he great? Yes, he was great. He was great. But what he did, is it proprietary? Did he set a standard? Was he the first to play the Joker like that? Yes.
Right.
So because he was the first to play the Joker like that, and I saw somebody say, Mark Hamill, I'm talking live action people, because he's the first to play the Joker like that, everything will always be compared to him. And that's fair. But I don't think there's anything proprietary about what he did, just like there's nothing proprietary about what Robert Englund did with Freddy Krueger. That doesn't mean that he won't always be your Freddy, but to insinuate that nobody could ever do that, nobody in the history of actors could ever do that, it's just not true. I mean, it's just
Heath Ledger,
not true.
I think basically what it comes down to is Ledger, all he did from Nicholson's performance is he just raised the bar. He took it up a notch. You have to remember too, Tim Burton wasn't going in that direction of that style of a movie.
Right.
So, Nicholson had to play within, what was, the stylization of that 1989 Batman film. It wasn't dark. It was more in line to that early 20s, Batman. Isn't that what it's set in or whatever? Or 50s or something.
Something like that.
Something like whatever. But, and Burton's Batman is still one of my favorite films of all time. And Nicholson's performance is also one of my favorite Joker performances. But I love Ledger's performance. I think this Joker with Joaquin, I think Joaquin is just going to take it up another level. Like what Heath did.
I look forward to seeing the trailer or the trailers because it's very difficult to gauge by paparazzi set photos because they're not even official photos. They're just photos that the studio is allowing out in the pop culture consciousness, but they're not official photo. I mean, they've released official photos in terms of marketing posters and things like that with his face, but I'm talking about the photos you see of him on set in the background and things like that. The studio is not complaining about it, and because they're getting him out there first and foremost, but it's difficult to gauge on what the tone is going to be like. Sure. So I'm really interested to see what will happen. But anyway, so let's move on here.
All right.
Yeah, take it away, Tony.
It Chapter 2.
Yes, I have that too.
Yeah, so I figured both of us would have that on our list. You know, I mean, the first one, I was, you know, like most people, I was hesitant, you know, because, you know, the original It, made for TV, Halloween alum Tommy Lee Wallace directed that, by the way, for those of you who didn't know that.
Yes, he did.
And, you know, what's his name, who played Pennywise in the 90s?
Tim Curry.
Tim Curry. So it was I was kind of like, you know, on the fence. But then when I saw this film, you know, a year or so ago when it came out, it totally knocked it out of the park. And yeah, I'm very much looking forward to seeing the second chapter of this. Have they announced any more casts to this yet? Or just, is it the one person who's in this flick?
No. They're I think they're even done shooting it. I mean, the entire the cast was announced. Yeah.
I haven't been paying attention.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to It Chapter 2, although I will say I'm not one of those people that thought the first It was
in this. That's right.
Yeah. I will say though that I'm not one of those people that thought the first It was phenomenal. I thought it was good. Right. But I gotta say, I watched it again. I have it on Blu-ray, and I watched it again a couple of months back. One night I popped it, and I hadn't seen it. I only saw it in the theater once, so I bought it on Blu-ray because I did enjoy it, and I watched it. And I gotta say, I did not enjoy it as much as I did when I watched it in the theater. Now, and I think the reason for that is because it's kind of hard to pinpoint. Look, it's a good movie. It is. But there's some things about it that I don't like. I don't like the over-reliance on CGI. I think it was unnecessary to have.
It's the reason why the first film is so great. There's no CGI. Well, with the exception, the alien is practical, right? It's not CGI.
The end of the 90s miniseries?
Yeah, the alien
the
part.
Spider?
Yeah, the spider. That's practical.
That's stop motion animation. Yeah, that's why it looks so hilarious. Yeah.
Okay, so that's even, you know,
definitely dated now. But I mean, I liked it, but I thought that there were things they could have done with Pennywise that I wanted it to be. This is going to sound crazy to some people because it's not that it wasn't dark. I wanted it to be even darker. Sure. I wanted to walk out of that theater going, now that was fucking disturbing. And that doesn't mean there weren't disturbing things in it. But I felt that it was very
it up with Georgie's death, and you actually that was shocking, you know.
It was, but they could have. I mean, again, I'd have to devote I don't have the time right now to talk about it at length. Let's just say that I enjoyed it. I thought it was very good, but I found that one of my favorite moments in it, actually, the first It, was when what's his face? The Ben, the chunky kid is in the library or the school library, and he's looking through a book, and behind him, you see the librarian, and she's blurred. She's blurred out, and you see her face, and she's just kind of like she's smiling like this, and she's going. And I saw that, and a lot of people didn't pick up on that because you're so focused on Ben. But my buddy who I saw it with in the theater didn't even pick up on that. But when I watched it, I was like, nah, that's good shit. That's like Hereditary shit.
Yes.
Okay. Like that's that psychological. And I'm not saying the whole movie's got to be like that. It's a different kind of movie. You got to have Pennywise out there. You got to have some blood. You got to have some scares. But this aspect of Pennywise, like at the camera, that was done about 2 or 3 times. And I thought
it's kind of overkill.
I thought to myself, do you need to do it 3 times? Yeah. Like you can do it certainly in the writing room. You can say, Oh, you know what? Let's not do that there. Let's think of something else that's scarier. Let's not have Pennywise at the camera 3 times. We can have it once, sure, but do you have to have it 3 times? I mean, so it's just little things like that I thought it's good. I enjoyed it. Don't get me wrong, but I found myself not enjoying it as much as I did the first time when I watched it a second time. The actors are great. The kids are great. It's got that Goonies, Stranger Things vibe. They're capitalizing on that. But I think they could have gone even more disturbing. I really do. The book is fucking disturbing. And is this new incarnation of it darker than the miniseries? Well, yeah, of course it is. Is it more in line with the book than the miniseries? Yes. And is it a good movie? Yes, which is why I'm looking forward to It Chapter 2. But it's directed by the same guy, so I'm expecting the same sort of kind of tone, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
No, I agree. I'm totally looking forward to It Chapter 2. I know, and I agree with you. I think of the two movies, I will probably, still watch the 90s one more than I will watch this new one. I have the new one, but I don't see myself watching it like every October like I will the Tim Curry's 1990 film. I will always watch that in my run of October of horror movies and whatnot. So
right. And I think I wanted Pennywise now maybe he'll be utilized in this movie in the sequel to this a bit, but it's like, now again, I understand it's different. Okay.
Sure.
But one of the things that I loved about, and I'm not saying that Skarsgård had to play him this way. If he's not directed to play him this way, if that's not what the director wants or the writer wants, you don't do it. And when I mean writer, I mean the adaptation, of course. But one of the things I love about Tim Curry, one of the things I loved is when he's in, and I'm not saying he needed to play him this way. This is just an example of what I'm talking about. When Tim Curry is in the sewer and he's talking to Georgie, and he's like, "Oh, Georgie, what are you doing? Oh, I got a balloon for you." It's very, it's this clown, it's whatever it is. And then there's that change, and it's almost like he's like, "Don't you want it? Can't you feel it, Georgie?" It's like, whoa, what the fuck? Like, it's almost, there's this like, whoa, dude, like, are you into kids or something? Like, it's almost like there's this fight. It becomes really disturbing really quickly. Now, is the movie dated? Yes, it's 1990. It's a miniseries. Okay, it's dated. The effects are dated. The production value is dated. You try to get your 15-year-old kid to watch the movie today, it probably like, what I'm saying? I get it. But with Skarsgård's portrayal, it felt very one note to me. And there's a point when he's, do you remember the scene in the movie where he's attacking Eddie? He comes out of the closet or whatever it is, and he's all like folded up and he gets really, really tall, right? And he's coming towards Eddie, who's got the cast on his arm, right? And he's there, and he grabs Eddie. I forget what he says, but he grabs him and he's talking, and then he hears that noise over in the corner where the other kids are, and the way he turns and it changes or something. He's like, come on. He's like, where are they? Or something to that effect. There's something that changes there, and that I was like, yeah. I like seeing the contrast. I like seeing, this isn't, there's something really disturbing there. And when he's got Beverly in his clutches at the end of the movie, where she's floating or something, and I forget what Skarsgård does, but he says something like, come on, like something to that effect. I like seeing that. I think they could have utilized that real sort of schizo side of Pennywise, because he's angry, he's faking it. And let's not forget, Pennywise doesn't exist. There is no clown. It's what the kids are seeing. He's manifesting himself as a clown to gain the children's trust. That's what it really is all about. Okay, he's not anything. He's a demon. He's not really a clown. The clown really does not exist. So to see that side seep through a bit more is kind of cool. Where I found that Skarsgård was a little too maybe one note, that it was kind of always there. Come on, Georgie. What do you think, Georgie? It just was a little too, I don't know. But that's my opinion. Sure. Okay. And I'm not saying he did a bad job. I'm not saying it's a bad movie. Just little things that I noticed. I'm kind of like, oh, if you could have, and just whatever. But it was good enough that I'm looking forward to It Chapter 2. Fuck, shut up, Dave. Okay, let's go.
No, I agree. I've only got a couple more left. So
all right, take it away. Say with me.
Pet Sematary. I just out of pure curiosity, One, I'm a big fan of John Lithgow. He's a great actor. Love his movies, anything that he's really done. Yeah, and actually, I just watched here recently the Planet of the Apes, the new with Andy Serkis as Caesar. I totally forgot that he's in the first one. I literally forgot that he was in the first film, that he plays the dad to oh crap, what is his name there? I almost said Dave, but his name's not Dave Franco. The other dude, Franco, the older brother Franco.
Oh fuck.
Seth Rogen's friend. Like I got
James
all the
Franco.
Thank you, James Franco.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forget that John Lithgow plays the father to James Franco in the first Planet of the Apes trilogy here that came out recently. And I just like him as an actor. So I think, you know, I don't have a lot of high expectations for this Pet Sematary film. The original obviously is classic. Love the original. I think it's just out of pure curiosity. I want to see the film. It's not like an anticipated film, but just more or less curious.
I think I will. I don't have it on my list, but I think I will agree with you in the sense of that I'm curious about it. I like the first Pet Sematary. Sure. I don't think I like it as much as a lot of people, but it's definitely one of the better.
Great.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the better Stephen King adaptations.
Sure.
In terms, because, you know, there's a lot of good Stephen King adaptations when it comes to movies, but not necessarily a lot of good horror Stephen King adaptations. Although you could point to you could point to, you know, Christine and Cujo and things like that. They're, you know, they're not bad, you know, of course too. But there's a lot of misses as well.
Bullet is his too, I think. I think he wrote the screenplay for that, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
But having said that, it's not on my list, but yeah, I'm curious.
That's where I'm at. It's like, okay. It's a little darker, you know. Now, I don't know if what we're going to see in the trailer is going to be in the movies with the kids wearing those kind of creepy animal masks. I did like that visual effect. I was like, maybe not so much in a movie, but I started thinking like, damn, that would be a really dope photo shoot to do like, in October with those types of masks that the kids were wearing.
That's right.
Very creepy, and I thought that was effective, but curious.
Davey Devolution in the chat room just said Misery, and I got to agree with you. It's not only one of my favorite King adaptations, it's one of my favorite movies. Misery is just fantastic.
Yeah.
Great mention there. We will get to questions shortly. We're trying to speed this up here. Okay, so for me, The Irishman. The Irishman is going straight to Netflix.
Okay.
It is one of Netflix's. They're taking it. Look, Netflix, ideally. Now, I've heard some rumblings, but I think what Netflix's goal is to become more studio than streaming service.
Right.
Because I don't think they're going to get rid of their streaming service. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that I think ideally, if you were to ask Netflix, what would be your ideal goal? Well, we would love to compete with Universal, Warner Brothers, Paramount, Sony, you know, all the big boys, Disney. And I think with Disney launching their own streaming service tune, which is they're going to take away a lot of content away from Netflix, I think that is sort of their goal. Netflix releasing a lot of original content now. They're spending millions upon millions of dollars. The Irishman is one of the biggest. I think it's costing between $170 and $200 million to make. It's directed by Martin Scorsese. It's got Joe Pesci. It's got Al Pacino. It's got Robert De Niro. It's got Harvey Keitel. I mean, this is like
clearly Netflix
vintage,
is up in their game. You know,
oh, vintage.
Did you see Mowgli?
Sorry,
did you see Mowgli? The Andy Serkis live action or whatever?
No, not yet.
It's really good. I actually liked Mowgli better than the Jungle Book. The one that came out here, Dave, whatever. What's his name? The guy who's directing.
Jon Favreau.
Yeah, Jon Favreau. Yeah. I thought Andy Serkis's adaptation, the one that went straight to Netflix, was better than the Jungle Book. So clearly Netflix is becoming a big time player in the filmmaking movie industry. I mean, docuseries are the shit. I love their docuseries that they have on there.
To be fair, in terms of Mowgli, I stand to be corrected, but I don't think Netflix. Now they obviously distributed that, but they weren't behind that in the beginning. They picked it up.
You are right.
Yeah. They picked it up. They got the rights for it because obviously Andy Serkis and company felt that releasing this nationally may not do very well because of Disney's Jungle Book. And people are going to be confused. Like, is this a sequel? What the fuck is this? We just had a Jungle Book. So they released it on Netflix, to be fair. But I get what you're saying. And with The Irishman, I mean, come on. This could be the last time we see And Joe Pesci's come out of fucking retirement for this.
Right.
This could be the last time we see these arguably some of the greatest actors of all time. I mean, listen to the Pesci, Pacino, De Niro, Scorsese is directing. This is based on a true story. Yep. And they're using de-aging technology, which is one of the reasons why the budget has skyrocketed so much, is because I think like an extra 30 or 40 million has been lumped into the budget for the de-aging technology, because they're playing these characters in the movie at different points in their lives.
Sure.
So they're using de-aging technology on all these actors. So that's going to be interesting to see whether or not that's going to be really interesting.
No,
so
I'm with you, man. I'm looking forward to that as well.
I forget when The Irishman comes out, but it will be a Netflix. It might get a limited release in New York and Los Angeles, because I believe, unless the rules have changed, you have to have a release in Los Angeles and New York, I believe, limited in order to be
for the awards.
Right. So I think you might get something like that, but it will be released fundamentally, like at its core, widely on Netflix. So I'm really curious about that. The Irishman, guys, if you're a big fan of Goodfellas, if you're a big fan of if you're a big fan of Scorsese and Pacino and De Niro. Sorry?
I was going to say, of course, Scorsese, you can't go wrong. You really
can't go wrong. I mean, come on. So look out for The Irishman.
All right. I got 2 more.
All right. I got 3 more.
3 more. All right. So next in line for me, I will say Spider-Man Far From Home. It's a follow-up sequel. I think it's the 3rd film this year that for the MCU. I already had mentioned Avengers Endgame for if you're just joining us now, and I mentioned Captain Marvel already. Spider-Man Far From Home, the sequel to Homecoming. I personally like Tom Holland's adaptation of Spider-Man. I think he's the best so far. I take nothing away from Sam Raimi's Spider-Man and what Tobey Maguire did, back in the early 2000s. I like the first one. The second one was me. It was good. The third one, forget about it. No, the third one was just a shit show. Was not a fan of the Amazing Spider-Man that came out, I don't know, somewhere in the last 10 years. There was like 2 films that they did. Didn't like them. Was like, whatever. But this one, Tom Holland as Spider-Man, I thought he's been a very, very good Spider-Man. So I'm looking forward to it.
Right. Okay, cool. I've yet to see Homecoming, but I will eventually, and I'm sure I eventually will see Spider-Man, the second Spider-Man movie that's coming out this year. For me, next on the list would be Us, the horror movie that's coming out very soon by Jordan Peele.
Oh my God, that's on my list. I forgot. I totally forgot. Yes, that looks so good and original. This is like, I love these original ideas that they're coming up with, like, with Hereditary and Quiet Place, and now this.
Yes, exactly. Now, here's something to think about and not on. What if the family you see at the beginning of the trailer to Us, Lupita Nyong'o and her husband and her son, are not actually, what if the other family, they're doppelgangers, so to speak, right? What if the other, they're the real family? Oh,
kind of shit I love, dude. I love that mind tripping stuff that makes
I'm just saying, if when you all see Us, it turns out that the us they're referring to, or the other people, their doppelganger, which if by the end of the movie you realize, oh shit, that's the family, and the family we thought was the family is actually the other. I've called it here. Just saying.
No, dude, I'm glad you said that, because that movie slipped my radar. I just forgot about it in making this lip and prepping for the show. But no, absolutely. Like, I'm very much, and I was just saying this a moment ago. I love where they're going with horror movies and these suspense thrillers, and make you think. What was the Get Out? Get Out is the same type of
right.
Fucking think, mess with your mind type of movies. I really love that. This is where horror movies is heading into now, and I hope they continue to produce that, because now you can arguably say you can see this beginning to build slowly, and I think. Do not be surprised. Within 5 to 10 years, you will see a horror film nominated for Best Picture. Because if you look at movies like Get Out, A Quiet Place, Hereditary, this new movie, Us, they're just getting better and better. And it's not just a hack 'em up, slice 'em up, type of horror movie. It is, make you fucking think, fucking mess with your mind, but really good acting with really great storytelling. You know,
Right.
when you get a prime actress like Emily Blunt, is that her name? Yeah, I think that's her name. She
Yep.
was in A Quiet
Yep.
Place. You know, when you get a star actress like that, and even though I know her man was directing it and all that, I get that part of it. But
Yep.
when she's willing to agree to do a horror film, you know that they're now, chopping out really good quality films. Look, I will always be partially fond, like many of you in the chat room and Dave, with the 80s slasher, Freddy, Jason, Michael stuff. That'll always have its place for me. But what they're doing now and how they're elevating and taking horror to another level, and within 10 years, mark my words, we will have a horror film nominated for Best Picture.
Yes, that would not surprise me. That would not surprise me. I agree that the probability of that is
Yes, someone just said in the
quite
chat,
high.
it did, and I agree. It started with It Follows. I agree. I think It Follows, because that came out before all this. That set the new standards, and now, boom, here we are.
Well, I think I agree with that to a point. I mean, these kinds of movies have been around for a long time. It Follows, I'd have to look at the movies that came out in and around It Follows before It Follows to see whether or not that's 100% true. But certainly It Follows was quite successful. It was an independent movie. It was very cerebral in its own right.
Sure.
And it does play off of that. And we're entering sort of a phase now where it's becoming cool, so to speak, to do these kinds of movies.
Yep.
Where it's not quite as, they were seen more as elitist. They were seen more as, oh, you have to be so smart just to get that, or they're too intellectual, they're too cerebral. Whereas now, I think movie-going audience want to be challenged that way. They want to be scared psychologically, because, I mean, I could do another video on it, but I did one a few months ago about what it is that truly frightens us and why these kinds of movies are far scarier than the typical slasher or other types of horror movies.
What would you call this now? Like this specific genre of horror movies that we're in, from It Follows to Get Out to Hereditary and A Quiet Place and Us. Like what would it's it's not slasher. So what would you?
No, it's psychological. It's psychological horror is what it is. It's a psychological horror film. So there's many different types of psychological. You can have a psychological thriller, which is like what Shutter Island would be. You can have a psychological horror film, which is, you can have a psychological thriller again, which maybe is what Prisoners is, right? With Hugh Jackman. You can have a psychological horror movie, which is what Hereditary is, or what Get Out is, or whatever. And there's many, like, under the horror umbrella, there's many different subgenres, right? You have your slasher, your paranormal, your possession, your psychological, your ghost, or whatever. So it's just that when it came to this subgenre, the psychological subgenre, it's existed for years. Decades.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could say The Shining is in that category.
Absolutely. Yes. The Shining is a psychological, 100%. But the whole it's just that subgenre of horror just never was entering in the pop culture consciousness on a mass scale. Well, now it's becoming cool, because
they weren't doing many. I mean, you had The Shining, and then what? The 80s pretty much became a hack 'em, slice 'em up slasher.
Right.
Which
right.
Again, always will have its place.
It's cyclical. So it will come around again. Slasher will be cool again eventually.
Absolutely. All right, my last film, John Wick 3.
I got John Wick 3 down here too.
Yeah, so cool. We can talk about this. This was kind of a surpriser for me when the first one came out. Like everyone else, I just like, all right, Keanu, John Wick, all right, whatever, we'll see. And then I fucking loved it and loved the second one, and I can't wait to see the third one.
Feel the same way. I actually watched John Wick and John Wick 2 about maybe within the last year. They were on Netflix, so I watched it and I loved it. I thought it was, I'm not a big Keanu Reeves fan, but I like
the first Matrix. I like Bill and Ted. I liked oh my God, I'm drawing a Point Break. Those Point Breaks, classic 80s. Speed, Sandra, yeah. So there's, but like I'm with you. I'm not like this, like, my grandmother, rest in peace.
It's because one of the reasons why John Wick is good is because the kind of actor that Keanu Reeves is, he's suited for this kind of a role. He doesn't
Sure.
have to say too much. He can just grumble along and be that depressed kind of guy, and
Real
maybe he looks good
character.
so the ladies can be attracted to him, and he's just that broken hero that lives alone with his dog, and he works out and he doesn't say much, and he's suited for that kind of role. And that's why it does well. If you give him a role where he's got to talk a lot or he has a lot of dialogue, his flaws tend to, show through. So it's one of the reasons why he's suited for that kind of a role. It's a guilty pleasure. They were good movies. The first one I think is better than the second one.
Do you
But
know, I met him in New York on the subway. He is he's one of the coolest and nicest. I didn't take a picture. I didn't ask.
He's Canadian, of course he is.
Well, yeah. Well, we were talking about this earlier. You Canadian fan, you just got a assembly line of good quality actors that you're just cranking them out, left and right.
Cranking them out. And but like I said, every now and then we have some defaults, and Bieber comes over the border, and I apologize.
No, but he really is a really cool dude. Shook my hand, just really, really all around, just genuine, nice guy. He didn't come across like Hollywood-ish,
Sure.
Don't talk to me, don't approach me. And it was a very quick conversation. Just said, loved your work, loved your films. I think the only one I mentioned because I was kind of in shock was The Matrix. But I really wanted to say I loved you in Bill and Ted, loved you in Point Break. But I'm like, fucking Keanu Reeves, man, holy shit! I loved you in The Matrix.
Fuck. He's a cool guy for sure. When does that come out? John Wick 3. Is that a summer thing or?
It comes out in a couple months.
Couple months. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's my last one. What about you?
All right, the last one for me, and again, there's many on here. I could have mentioned Toy Story 4. I could have mentioned what's that one with Tom Hanks where he plays Mr. Rogers. I mean, there's many on here that piqued my interest. But the other one that I thought was really cool, because my girlfriend's a big fan of Elton John, and I'm actually really looking forward to seeing this. Of course, is his biopic Rocket Man.
Rocket Man, I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, so that comes out, I think, on my birthday. I think it's the 24th of May. So, really looking forward to that.
All I can say with Rocket Man is I hope. Look, what's his name's performance as oh my
Elton
God.
John.
No. I'm thinking of Bohemian Rhapsody because I was very. Very disappointed in Bohemian Rhapsody because there's a lot of things that they did. In the
Freddie Mercury.
And Freddie Mercury, thank you. Queen's one of my favorite bands, and I'm forgetting the name. But they took a lot of liberties with the storytelling and the things that they mentioned in the film at certain points in the timeline that was no, this didn't happen at that time. And I thought, why would you do that? Why would you alter? And we're not talking minor moments. We're talking some very big key moments in Bohemian Rhapsody that happened in Freddie Mercury's life that's so not even how it fucking went down, especially the Live Aid performance. You guys don't understand something here. Live Aid in 1985, me and Dave were kids during this when they televised this all over the world first. It was so monumental and so fucking huge. And it took Queen to this whole other fucking level with their career. And for those who have seen Bohemian Rhapsody and know what happened leading up to Live Aid, that shit didn't fucking happen. And it pissed a lot of people like myself and other people who are Queen fans off. So my hope with Rocket Man is that they don't take the liberty with Elton John's story, that they stay true to it. Because I think this is what's going to hurt Bohemian Rhapsody come award season this year. And Remy's performance as Freddie Mercury was fucking amazing.
I haven't seen the movie, but it looked amazing.
No, totally. His performance is amazing. The story was fucking shit.
Right.
They didn't tell the true story of what fucking went down, and they took a lot of liberty. Look, I get it when there's movies that come out like Walk the Line. Was Joaquin Phoenix the same size as Johnny Cash? No, Johnny Cash was 6'3". Joaquin Phoenix is shorter than me. He's your height. He's 5'8". But when you look at Joaquin Phoenix's performance as Johnny Cash, he fucking crushes it. In fact, I prefer listening to Joaquin Phoenix sing Johnny Cash music than Johnny Cash himself. You know what I mean? It's that good. So yes, there are certain points in a biopic where you can take liberty, and that's the case. But when you're really altering storylines, then no. So with Rocket Man, I really hope that they stay true to that and they stay true to Elton John's story.
Cool. And I agree. And my girlfriend knows a lot about that. So she'll be my sort of ear to whether or not it's accurate or not.
Yeah.
So that'll be really cool.
Question?
Okay, yes. So that wraps it up. That is sort of Tony and I's most anticipated movies of 2019, and of course, at the beginning of the broadcast, which you guys can go back and watch shortly, we talked about some of our favorite movies from 2018. So let's open up the chat room. They're on fire in there. 106 people watching. I think at our peak we had about 120 at one point. Let's open it up for the last 20 minutes or so here for some questions. Take it away, chat room. What do you got?
Oh, no, we're not cutting it short, guys. We got another 20 minutes or so, so we wanted to save the ending here for you guys. So
yeah, that's right.
Worst movies from the 90s. Vinny, hey, man, how you doing? He's a follower of mine on Instagram.
Okay. Hey, Vinny.
Worst movie in the 90s.
Worst movie in the 90s. I don't know.
Clueless. I hated that movie.
I haven't seen it in years. I'm not sure.
I hated that movie. Oh, fuck, I hated that movie. Although, you know what? There's a meme. I got to send this meme to you out there. There's a Halloween meme that someone created. It talks about the Tommy Doyle journey of how Tommy Doyle becomes Ant-Man. And well, because, in the original Halloween, you see him on the couch with Jamie Lee Curtis reading off the names of the comic books, which was the argument of the meme is this is where Tommy Doyle started to think about, the name that he would ultimately become down the line. His training began in Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers, where he goes up to fight Michael Myers. And in that, he realizes now he's, ready for his next level of training. And he goes to New York, which actually is funny how they do this. And then you see Paul Rudd with I can't think of the actress's name, but her character's name was Phoebe on Friends.
Right.
So because Paul Rudd, in that time frame, he ended up on Friends, which leads him to meeting Tony Stark in New York to become Ant-Man.
That's funny. That's funny. You have to send that to me.
Yeah, it was very clever how they did that with Tommy Doyle's, leading up to him becoming Ant-Man.
Right. Secular Unity says, have you seen Creep 2014? If so, your thoughts on it and the sequel. I personally have not seen it. I do see it every now and then as I'm surfing through Netflix, but I haven't seen it. Tony, you?
Nope, have not seen it.
There you go. Patrick Olinger, what movie do you think is the worst movie from the 80s? Oh,
none. The 80s was the best decade for movies and movies and music. Period.
I have no idea.
No, I couldn't think of one either because that is really my decade, man. I couldn't.
It was a good decade.
Really
I've actually just speaking of the 80s, I've actually just begun watching season 1 of Stranger Things again. And then I will watch season 2 of Stranger Things leading up. I'm preparing myself. I'm brushing up on my Stranger Things again because I want to start talking about it a bit more on my channel as we get closer to season 3.
We'll have to do a show on that.
Yeah, for sure. So I've just watched the first 4 episodes. That was just completely irrelevant. Just speaking of the 80s.
Someone asked a Cobra Kai question here. Will Bobby? I'm sure that's something that I know. I've mentioned it to Dave a few times because Cobra Kai, season 2 comes out here very soon with the success of season 1. Dave did say he was open to doing some shows on that here.
Yeah,
and I think as we get closer to the release, maybe that's something you and I can do. But will Bobby return? I think that's probable 100%. He's going to return. Bobby, for those who don't remember, Bobby had, unfortunately, they cut this out, but if you look it up online and on YouTube, Allison put all the behind the scenes, like he literally filmed the whole movie behind the scenes and the preparation for it in the gymnasium and whatnot, and the fight scenes and everything like that. Like you see all of it. And he's got it all up on YouTube. And he's got this one moment in the dress rehearsals where Bobby, where he redeems himself at the end of the Karate Kid, and apologizes to Daniel. He walks up the crease and he takes off the belt and he slams the belt down and walks away. They cut that out of the movie. I really wish they would have kept that in the movie because that really would have been a true redeeming thing for Bobby and his character. So will he be in season 2? I will say that is almost a guarantee that he's going to be in season 2. What importance of a character is he going to play? I gotta believe it's gonna be something. He's gonna be maybe Johnny's assistant to the Cobra Kai dojo. That almost seems obvious. And then again, they may shock us, and he may be LaRusso's fucking partner. Who the hell knows?
Right. Gotcha. Okay. Well, again, Tony's the Cobra Kai expert. I haven't seen it, but I certainly will lean on him for the Cobra Kai knowledge. Tyler Davis says, have you guys watched Summer of '84?
Yes, I liked it.
Yes, I really enjoyed it. It took me a while to warm up.
Sure.
To get warmed up with it, but it's a Canadian movie, by the way, for those of you that don't know. Shot in beautiful Vancouver, British Columbia.
Nice.
For those of you that don't know, Black Christmas is also a Canadian movie. The Changeling with George C. Scott, that's a Canadian movie. Good Canadian horror movies coming out of here. I enjoyed Summer of '84. Like I said, it took me a while to warm up to it, and I think it's because Stranger Things has set the bar. So when you have a movie, it was an independent movie that is very Stranger Things-ish, you can't help but, as you're watching it, notice the flaws in terms of character development is not quite where, and of course it's a 2-hour film or an hour and a half movie as compared to, Stranger Things season 1, which of course essentially is an 8-hour movie. So obviously you have to keep things in perspective, but definitely I noticed the similarities. I got what they were trying to do. There's no doubt they were more than likely inspired by the success of Stranger Things. And it's good for what it is. It's good. And it's different enough. It's not dealing with the paranormal or, anything like that. It's dealing with sort of real life shit. And that was good. And so it took me a while to warm up, but at the end of the day, I thought it was good. I thought it was good. I want to quickly correct here. The club says The Changeling is Canadian with Angelina Jolie. No, that's a 2008 movie. I'm talking about the 1980 horror movie with George C. Scott.
Different film.
Different film.
We've had a couple questions here, a couple different people, Il Orton and someone else, Secular Unity. Thoughts on Rob Zombie's Halloween films. Do you want to start or you want me to start? Well, no, okay, here. All right, in fairness, all right, I will say this. I liked what he did with the first film. I was like, okay, this is interesting adaptation. I like Scout Compton, whatever the fuck her name, Scout. She's fucking hot. I love her. I thought her version of Laurie Strode and how she played it, I thought she did a great job in that she didn't try to be like Jamie Lee Curtis, which is, I will always give credit to an actor who's doing who's part of a remake and makes it their own. Same thing with Malcolm McDowell. I thought Malcolm McDowell played a great Dr. Loomis. He didn't try to be Donald Pleasance, and that's what I liked. Unfortunately for me, with Halloween, Rob Zombie, you get Halloween 2, and that's when it becomes a fucking shit show. For those who don't know, I walked out of the movie. It's the only movie I ever walked out of the theater on, and I didn't finish watching the film until this past year. I finally watched the Halloween 2 in its entirety, with the whole Halloween hype and the new film coming out. I was like, yeah, fuck it, I'll cave in and I'll watch it finally. And I did. And I hated it. I hated every minute of it. I don't like it. The whole white horse fucking trippy nonsense, I don't get what Rob Zombie was trying to do. I just think there's only so much liberty that you can take as a creator. And when you go that far off the tracks with it, I thought the opening was really good. The whole hospital sequence was really good. I thought Scout's performances in Halloween 2 were great and going through the post-traumatic stress. I said this on Dave's channel when we were talking about Halloween a few weeks back, where the whole Laurie dealing with post-traumatic stress, that was when it was really first introduced. Now they did it again here with Jamie Lee Curtis's character in this new film. But really, it was Scouts in Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. You were seeing that for the first time and what Laurie Strode could have gone through in that first year or so after the events of Halloween. And I thought her performance was really good. It was just everything surrounding her fucking performance was a total shit show. I hated what he wanted out of Malcolm McDowell and getting all fucking diva bullshit. No, that's not Dr. Loomis's character. And Daniel Harris, she was great in that. I did not know that she died. So when that happened, I was like, motherfucker, because I walked out before that happened. So yeah, that was not, I did not like that surprise. But yeah, that's all I can say. Anything you got to add to it?
Oh, God. No, I don't. I don't like the movies. I don't like the movies. I
Do
mean,
you
you've
like
heard me
the
say
Do you like the first one he did?
no, no, I
No.
don't. No, I don't. I don't like the first one. I don't like the second one. I mean, you want to, like you say, well, he was trying something. Well, yeah, he was trying something different.
I don't
Okay,
know what the
great.
fuck he was trying in the second
Well,
one.
yeah, I just don't. But I don't care. I mean, I look. I mean, I took my 60, whatever she was at the time, my mother. Not my girlfriend. Listen, I took my 60-year-old girlfriend. No, I took my my 65 or however old she was mother because my mother was a big fan of the original Halloween.
Sure.
And when, and I thought, okay, well, let's go see this movie. We went and saw it. And of course, in the first 5 minutes of the movie, the word skull, fuck you, and eat my pussy or whatever the hell it was is coming out of nowhere. And I'm sitting there thinking, Jesus Christ, I'm sitting next to my mother, there's all this. And I'm like, God, no, I didn't like the movie. I thought it was garbage. I thought it was a fucking shit show. I thought the second one was garbage and a fucking shit show. I didn't like it. If you like it, I think that's great. But for me, that's not what Halloween is. I wasn't expecting a shot for shot remake, but I was expecting some sort of the essence of the film to be there. You're remaking the movie. You're telling the same story over again. I think what happened was they took a chance on Rob Zombie because he's a specific style of filmmaker, and they thought that, well, we're going to take a chance on this, and it's going to be so different that it's going to work.
Yeah.
And well, I mean,
I'm not a big Rob Zombie fan. I mean, I liked Devil's Rejects. House of a Thousand Corpse was yeah. What about you? Are you a fan of his films?
Not really. I mean, I can watch his other movies a little more objectively because I'm not watching a movie that I love get butchered. So I can, like, it's not a remake. Right. So I can watch, House of a Thousand Corpses, The Devil's Rejects, 31 Rejects. I mean, Rejects, I said for some reason, and I can watch those movies a little more objectively and take it for what it is because he has a specific style. He is what he is. And so I can watch and go, well, this is a Rob Zombie movie. But what with Halloween, it's harder for me because I notice the flaws and the unnecessary. It's just kind of like what I'm watching a hick version of Halloween, which is just not my style.
Yeah. Next question.
Yeah, next question. Let's see here. Diddly dee. Oh, we've just opened the Halloween floodgates. Let me see. Let's see here. We're Movie Juice. Movie Juice. And he's put it in capital letters so it gets our attention. So he's screaming this. We're coming up on 9 years since the last Nightmare on Elm Street. Where should we go next? Where should we go next?
I think you and Cody Leach pretty much nailed it with was it Cody who first said it with what's the end game, or you?
Cody and I, well, we sort of said it together.
Right.
Cody was saying it and I agreed with what he was saying or what he was saying. And look, I mean, they're going to make another one. But in my opinion, for A Nightmare on Elm Street to be successful, it has to go back to the roots. You have to have Freddy scary again. You have to, less is more. I think you have to bring a sense of realism and grounded reality into it, because when you look at the Elm Street films in terms of the dreams, they became much more sensational and eccentric and out there. And not that dreams can't be like that, but one of the things that I loved about the first Elm Street was that the dreams they seemed like things that you would dream, things that teenagers would dream. You fall asleep in class, you daydream, you have, it seemed very grounded in reality. Freddy was scary. I am not one of those people that think Robert Englund is the only man that can play Freddy. And for all you people out there who think he is, Robert Englund himself doesn't think that he's the only guy that can play Freddy. He said it. I know he's off the cuff said, what about Kevin Bacon? I personally think Kevin Bacon is too old. He's 60 years old himself. When Robert Englund first played Freddy Krueger, he was younger than Tony and I. So he was like 35 or 36 or 37 at the oldest. So no, I don't think, I think there is another talented actor out there that could don the glove. That doesn't mean that Robert Englund won't always be Freddy to you, but I certainly think that there's somebody else could do it. But I think you've got to go back to the roots. You've got to go back to something that is terrifying and frightening, but it doesn't take the dream world and the dream sequence so sensational that it becomes hokey and comic booky and real sort of a farce or a spoof, in and of itself. Now, what Tony just said, what's the end game is that really it was talking about Robert Englund coming back, because I'll quickly get through this. Robert Englund off the cuff said that he might have one more Freddy left in him, but those comments are coming off of his appearance on the Goldbergs, which he had a lot of fun doing. And my argument was, you ask him again 6 or 7 months from now, when all the Goldberg shit is worn off, he might have a different answer. He might be like, no, fuck, I don't, that was fun for what it was, but I have no interest. But let's say he does come back and play Freddy. Well, what's the end game? He comes back and plays him once. He's not going to come back and play him 5 or 6 more times. He just comes back and plays him one time. Nancy comes back for what, one movie? Is that what you want? Don't you want to I don't think they should do anything, but I'm just, I always come at these things like they are. So what? So you have a movie with Robert Englund as Freddy. It's so successful, he doesn't want to come back, so you switch Freddys? I mean, what's the end game? Yeah. So personally, in my opinion, your best probability of success is to Robert Englund is done now, right? He's 70 or close to 70 or in his 70s. It's time to let it go. There's somebody else that can do it. You cast right. You cast the right individual, an unknown actor, relatively unknown, who can knock it out of the fucking park. And I think if you play it that way and you build something real rich in terms of scary, you might have something that's pretty darn cool.
You should cast Matthew Perry as Chandler to play Freddy. Could you dream up something better than a boiler room? I'm kidding, guys.
Oh, God. Adam. Oh, no. No.
Someone did ask a good question here. They've asked this question 3 times. So I want to, and it's actually a pretty cool question. Sure. Grave Warmer asked Tony and Dave, and I'll let you start here. If you could cast yourself into a movie character role for any type of character, what would it be? I thought that was a good question. What about you? What would it be, Dave?
It's a great question, and I will say that I don't know specifically, but definitely I think a lot of actors would say, and that's what I mean. I am an actor. I'm a voice actor, but for those of you that know anything about voice acting, it's acting. And I do have some on-camera acting experience. I think most actors would say this, and it's the same with voiceover acting as well. Playing the villain. I mean, playing a villain, depending on what the villain is, who the villain is, if the villain is really rich in terms of substance, can be so much fun. I mean, there's nothing more fun than playing the villain. Mm-hmm. So whether that's Freddy Krueger, whether that's the Joker, whether that's Pennywise, whether that's Darth Vader, whether that's everybody loves a good villain. So for me, it would be the villain. Specifically who, though, I don't know. I think if given the right opportunity, I think I could pull off a decent Freddy Krueger. I think if given,
I agree with that. I think you could pull off a great
and not just because I can go, ha ha ha, not that. I mean, really getting into the I mean, that helps, but I certainly don't want to just walk in and do a Robert Englund impression. But to bring the spirit of what Freddy Krueger is to the character, the spirit, not an impression, but the spirit of the character. And I'm the right size in terms of because now Robert Englund is about, I think he's about 5'9" or 5'10". I'm 5'8". You put you put
6'1".
No, he's not 6'1". We had this conversation before. If he's listed as 6, he's not 6'1", man.
You should look it up.
He's not 6'1". They might have, but you can't trust these things anyway.
5'10". I'm sorry, 5'10".
5'10". Yeah, he's 5. I actually think
right there,
because I know a couple of people who've met him and they've said he's not even 5'10". They said he's more like 5'9". With his boots on, he might be 5'10". Well, I'm 5'8". You put boots on me, I could be 5'9" or 5'10". Sure. So, I'm in and around the right size, and I'd have a ball playing that role. So that would be because it's a physical role. I would enjoy playing that role more than I would enjoy playing Michael Myers, even though I think I can do a decent Nick Castle. I would, because it's a physical role, and it would be a lot of fun to play. And I think I could scare you.
For me, it would be 2 films I would like to do, which would be it's similar type of character. It's a biopic type character based on a real true character. The first would be Buddy Holly. Buddy Holly is a huge influence on my life. His music,
that's great.
absolutely influenced, been a big part of my life going back to a childhood. Unfortunately, career that was cut very, very short at such a very young age. You don't realize it till you get to our age and realize, he was only 21 years old and he had only been around for about a year and a half. And you think about what he could have done, not even just in the music that he could have, made himself, continuing to make, but what he was beginning to do, which was producing music as well. You think about what could have been. But yeah, so I know Gary Busey. I love Gary Busey's, adaptation of Buddy Holly in the Buddy Holly story. He did a great job. It might really be the only movie that I know of him where he, nailed it. I mean, he was good in Silver Bullet. I think that he was in Silver Bullet. I liked him in that, but he hasn't had the, longevity career, unfortunately. And that's really what most people remember him for. So yeah, I'd like to tackle Buddy Holly in the biopic, and the other one biopic, because I'm a photographer and because I'm a filmmaker, would be Stanley Kubrick. If I could play Stanley Kubrick in a movie, for those of you who are new to this channel or Dave's channel and don't know, I'm like, Kubrick is like, like what Spielberg is to Dave, Kubrick is to me. That was actually, this book was a gift that I got for Christmas, and it covers everything from Kubrick's photography career to his filmmaking career.
Awesome. That's just awesome.
Yeah, I think like I could just see myself just like totally getting, more so even than the Buddy Holly character, I could totally see myself diving into that role and taking it to that level of seriousness. Because I mean, I could sit here for hours and talk about Kubrick and his life and everything that he wanted to do that he couldn't get to do, before unfortunately he passed away. So yeah, that would be what I'd want.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, folks, that's going to do it for us on this episode. I got to take off, so we kind of have to call it a day there, but Tony and I appreciate everybody tuning in. And again, this is going to be processed and uploaded right onto my channel. Now, whenever we do live streams, you'll be able to watch it right away, but you might be like, if you click on it immediately, because it's not finished processing, you might miss the first like 5 minutes or something. I don't know why it does that, because it has to finish processing before everything is uploaded. So you might find when you click on it, we're right in the middle of speaking. So try again, maybe in a couple of hours or something, or an hour, or, just keep checking back to see if it's at the very beginning. But yeah, so we appreciate you all tuning in. And next week, we don't know what we're going to talk about yet, but I will let you guys know as soon as we know. And if you want to follow Tony on Instagram, his link is in the description. I think it is anyway. It should be there. It should be there. I think it is. Is it? Let me see. Yes, it is. It's there. It's there. So if you want to follow Tony on Instagram, the link is there, and all my links are there as well. Tony, any last things you want to say before we head out?
No, I'm good.
You're good.
I'm good. I'm good, man. I'm good. This was a good chat. Good kickoff to 2019. I'm looking forward to the year. Should be a lot of fun.
I love it. I love it. Okay. All right. Well, that'll do it for us. And we'll talk to you guys next week. We'll talk to you guys next week. All right. In the meantime, in between time. That's right. Yes. 7 o'clock next week. This week was 9 o'clock because Tony was busy doing his thing. So next week, we're back to our regular time at 7 o'clock. We'll talk to you guys soon. Cheers.